Hey guys, KRB here, and today we're going to be testing how to make perfect scrambled eggs by Tasty. So for this recipe we need 3 tablespoons of butter, pepper to taste, salt to taste, and 4 large eggs. Alright, so we're going to start with the butter. And we have 3 tablespoons of butter. And my first impressions of this is that is a lot of butter. I mean, that's almost equal part butter to eggs. But we're going to roll with it and see how it turns out. So we're going to cut this into thirds. And an amateur pro tip here for you is be sure to use the biggest knife you have in the kitchen to cut the butter like I did here. Now that we have our butter cut up, it's time to crack some eggs. And we're going to crack these in a bowl rather than straight into the pan. And another amateur pro tip for you, if you bash your eggs to crack them like I do here, you can actually add eggshells to your eggs for added texture. After we finish cracking all the eggs and digging out all the eggshells, we're going to give them a little salt, a little pepper to taste, and we're going to take a fork and whisk them until they're nice and scrambled. Now that we have the eggs nice and mixed, it's time to add the 2 tablespoons of butter to the pan. Now I have the pan set about medium-low heat, so these don't cook too fast. So I'm just going to give these a whirl around until they're mostly melted. Once the butter is pretty much melted, it's very easy to see that this is indeed a lot of butter for only 4 eggs. There's literally a standing layer of butter in the bottom of this pan. It looks like we're getting ready to fry something, not make scrambled eggs. Nonetheless, here come the eggs. These poor eggs are drowning in all this butter. I mean, once we drop the eggs in it, it almost looks like it's egg drop with butter soup. Anyway, so the tasty video says once you add in the eggs, to fight the urge to scramble them and just let them sit until you can see the eggs start to cook around the edge of the pan. So I'm watching and watching and watching, but I never see the very edge of the eggs start to form. As they start their initial setting phase, be sure to watch the very edge of the eggs for them to start forming. So as you can see, the outer edge of these eggs never start to cook. You can see a ring of eggs just inside that outer layer start to cook, but the edge itself is never quite cooked. At this point, after about 6 minutes have gone by, I can actually see the eggs cooking in the center of the pan, not on the edge. So I know for sure at this point that the eggs are probably a bit too set to make proper scrambled eggs. So I just decided to pull them back, and sure enough, the eggs are set. This video is turning into more of how to make an omelet. After going back and looking closely, the edge of these eggs that I was watching to cook and waiting to rise was actually a layer of butter. Now, maybe if I'd used a bigger pan, then this wouldn't have been as pronounced as it was. And maybe I wouldn't have messed them up. So rather than admit defeat, I decided I'd try to make them again, going through all the same steps, except for this time I'm going to try to start scrambling them just a little bit earlier. Now when I go to scramble them this time around, they aren't quite set enough, so I give them a couple extra minutes to set. I got a little gun shy after having the thought of messing these up too and having to eat a dozen eggs. So after a couple minutes, I pull back on them and they're starting to properly set. They look pretty good. So I keep doing this over and over until they're about 75% done. And then, you guessed it, more butter. So I keep scrambling them pretty much until this tablespoon of butter is melted. And they look pretty good. They look like they're finally about done. Visually, these eggs look great. They have a nice golden color with a nice buttery sheen to them, but they smell exactly like you would think they would, just like butter. I mean, it smells like you're just walking into a Ruth Chris steakhouse. Now, as far as the taste, they taste exactly like butter. It's like I'm eating butter with a side of eggs. I mean, I don't want to sound too un-American here, but this is just too much butter. After eating all 8 of these eggs, I felt like I was going to be sick. That's 6 tablespoons of butter total. 6. I think I may need to call my cardiologist after eating all these. Next time I make these, I'm definitely going to use less butter. Maybe like a tablespoon or 1.5 tablespoons tops. As far as when to stir them, I think I just need a little practice. The more I make them, more I should be able to eyeball whenever to start scrambling them initially. As far as the seasonings go, it was seasoned pretty well. The only thing I would add is a little pinch of crushed red pepper. That may sound a little strange, but if you've never had crushed red pepper on your eggs, I definitely encourage you to give it a try next time you make eggs. Here's the ingredients list. It's a pretty basic ingredients list that most people probably have around their house. I went ahead and itemized this list just to give you an idea of how much it cost. Minus the pinch of salt and pepper, the total comes out to about 75 cents, which is about as cheap of a breakfast as you could possibly make. Now this will be even cheaper if you opt out to not use the pyramid of butter as instructed. Now as far as time goes, the prep time took maybe about 3 or 4 minutes, with the actual cooking only taking around 5 or 6 minutes. So depending on how hot you cook your eggs, you're looking at a total time of around 8 to 12 minutes. I have the link for the original Tasty video in the description if you want to go ahead and check that out. I don't think I'm going to be having eggs anytime soon. I've had about all that I can stomach. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and be sure to check in next time as we dive into another recipe. Have a fantastic day.